Welcome to Unwind and Design. We're going to be starting off first with what we have in front of us. We have an 11 by 14 size canvas, long ways. Our colors being yellow, white, brown, red, and black. Next, we have our towel for our brushes. We have to make sure that we have water for our brushes, and the brushes we will be using are going to be a large background brush, a medium square brush, a round tip brush, and a detail liner brush. Next, make sure that your space is well illuminated. You're going to need a hair dryer or a fan to help us out with our layers. And you're going to need a pencil. So we're going to begin drawing our piglet with this pencil, starting off on our right hand side. So starting off about 3 inches from the right towards the bottom, we're going to start making a line and inclining it towards the top. About maybe 4 fingers in, 4 inches in, we're going to start to incline our line down to about a little bit before half our page. We create a little hill type of line, and that's going to be our top of the head. Then we're going to skip about another 4 fingers, and we're going to start making a line, inclining and curving down towards the bottom right hand corner. Then towards the left of it, we're going to make a line coming down and curving, and that should give us the neck and the chin. Then we're going to come towards the right, skip about maybe another 4 fingers. We're going to go at about maybe half of our canvas, a little bit above. And just like we did on top, we're going to form only half of our snout. So we're going to go up, make a nice round curve, and we're going to make sort of a heart shape below. See that? Then below that, we're going to bring a line out towards our left just to form a little bit of that mouth there. We're going to create a little curve hook at the end and close that in. And there we have our mouth. You can fill it in so that you are aware that you have to paint it in once we move on. Next, we're going to fill in half of a circle on the right nostril. It's going to be like a droplet, like a water droplet, and the other one on the left is going to be more of a diamond. Next, we're going to be skipping and working on our second half of our canvas. From the bottom line, we're going to start to incline down towards the left and then up towards the left corner. We're not going to go all the way down to the end of our canvas. We are just going to kind of stick to the middle. Once we get to the middle of that half, we're going to start inclining our line upwards, and we're going to bring our pencil to a point. That point is what is going to connect our bottom of our ear to our top. So we're going to go to the top of the head now and continue that line. That point, we're going to extend it just a little bit more, and we're going to start to curve it down to match the line that we just drew. So that's going to close in our ear. Then we have to add all the little dips inside of the ear with just some lines. Starting off first, we're going to go parallel to the bottom lines. We're creating a line inclining down and then up, just like the previous line. Then we're going to have a little bit of a line in between half of that ear. Let me zoom in for that. There you go. And I'm going to kind of close it in just so we know to shadow it. Then on top, I'm going parallel to the top of the ear. And then I'm going to bring in a little point. Then on half of our ear, we're going to use our pencil to kind of dictate more or less where we have to have our eye. We're going to put our eye right about there. And it's going to be like an almond shape inclining downwards towards the bottom left and pointing up towards the right. Right above that, we're going to draw like a triangle, tip and below, sort of like a V. And there you go. We have our piglet drawn out. Moving on. Now we're going to be grabbing our large background brush. And we're going to be adding a little bit of water to it. I always like to add a little bit of water to my paint because our paint is still really sticky. And we want it to be workable. We want it to be soft. So we're going to come in and we're going to make a very light pink with some yellow on it. Okay, so we're coming in here with the red and we're mixing it to the corner of our white because it's easier to get more white than to have to be putting white in the red every single time, especially when we want a lighter color. So when we want a lighter color, we move the color to the light color we're mixing it with. So here we go. Look at this pretty pink. So now we're going to grab a little bit of the corner of our yellow and we're going to mix it with that pink. And now we're going to get a really pretty piggy pink. Here we go. Almost like a peach. See that? It's a little bit more on the yellow side, which is perfect. Maybe even a little bit more yellow. There we go. Look at that color. Such a pretty color that we have right there. Okay, so we're going to start off with that color. And we're going to be coloring our face of our little piglet here. So we're bringing our brush. We're beginning to paint all around our little piglet here. Okay, and I'm just going to continue to paint him all the way around. So as we begin to paint the piglet in, I do use a little bit more red towards the top. Start keeping it slightly shadowed, create that outline. And as I work my way lower, I pick up a little bit more yellow. I do go over that eye. With the pencil marked, you should be able to still see the eye once that paint dries since it is very light. We're going to go around the snout, not filling in the mouth, just go around it. As we go lower towards the neck, we're going to continue that light color, a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow. Then we're going to be adding some red and more yellow to create the outline similar to the outline that we did above the head so that we can start to get a separation in that neck. Next, as we work our way towards the bottom of the neck, we are going to continue to use that darker pink, and then we're going to fill it in a little bit lighter in between. However, we do want to keep it darker as an outline around the neck, and we do want to keep it darker on the side of the shoulder as well. As we're continuing to work with this, we're going to add a little bit more red to our white here. Make it a little bit darker. You see that? So from the darker color, we're going to start to add a little bit of that dark color right now that our paint is still wet down in the bottom here. So we're going to come in, add a little bit more red to that. And we're just going to kind of add a little bit of a shadow on the side here. Okay, not too much, nice and light. Okay, if it's too dark, come back with a little bit more white and yellow to soften it up a little bit. Okay, here we go. This right here is a little too yellow, so then I'm coming with more white and I'm mixing that in there. There we go. Okay, but that way we can get that mixture underneath of our darker pink, starting to give us a little bit more of a shadow there. I'm not pressing very hard. I'm going very lightly over it. When you go lightly, you start to get this blended look and you don't get really harsh lines. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right here. And we're going to add a little bit of a highlight on the side here. So we don't want it to be that dark there either. There we go. And before our piece starts to dry, with the same big brush, we're going to grab a little bit more of that red. And we're going to lighten it up again, just a little bit. This time we want it darker than this lighter color though. So we're going just a little bit darker. And we're going to actually add just a little drop of brown to that. So that's going to help us darken up our color a little bit. You see that? With a little drop of brown in our pink and yellow mixture, we start to get more of a shadowy color. Again, it's not a lot, it's only a little bit. And we're going to start to go a little bit darker in our tone. It's not going to be so bright like this one. Okay, so with this darker color, let me add a little bit more red and a little bit more brown. Okay, cool. So with this darker pink that we have right there, kind of like a rose color, we're going to start to draw in a little bit part of the chin here. So we're adding that darker color underneath the chin. Again, don't press really hard. Let your brush slide across so that you can get a nicer, softer gradient around. Okay, so we're starting to kind of brush this underneath there, trying to shape that out. We're going to add a little bit of this dark color underneath the lip as well. You see that? And that's going to start to give us a shadow under there. So we are scraping this underneath that lip. And then right in between, just to make sure this is all blended, you're going to go in with your lighter color again. Okay, so we're going back and forth with our light and our dark color. We're trying to take our time here. So our pink is still wet on the outside. So when I come in with my lighter color, there you go. It's going to give it a better transition. It's not going to be such a big impact. It's going to look like it's actually a little bit softer there. Look at that. We're starting to soften up the edges that are right up against that. If it starts to get a little too dark, come back with a little bit more white and apply it right in the middle where you want to lighten it up, and then go over it slowly. You see that? How it's starting to transition like a highlight now? Because I'm not pressing very hard. Again, I'm going a little bit lighter than I should be. So I'm creating that softness there. Okay, let me make sure this is all combined. There we go. See, and now we have that transition of dark, dark, and then it gets lighter as we fade it off to the side. Going into the snout section, we're going to be grabbing that darker pink that we made. So remember, it's going to be some red mixed in with a little bit of white, and we're going to add a drop of brown to make it a little bit darker. And we're going to get that really nice deep snout color we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to paint it in first with our large brush. Then we're going to go in and add some details with our round tip brush. Okay, so we're going to go in and we're just going to paint around the snout, creating that outline. And this is your chance for you to fix your snout. If you don't like it, if you want to make it a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit rounder, maybe a little bit, like me, pointier, you can totally go ahead and do that. And then we're going to come in and we're going to fill that whole thing in with that pink. Okay, so it's going to be, again, pink with white or red with white. And then we're going to add some brown to make it a nice deeper rose color, more of like a blush. Look at that. That's so pretty. Okay, and we're going to go over and paint the whole snout. Again, like I mentioned before, this is your chance for you to fix it. If you don't like it, this is your chance. If you don't like your outline, if you didn't like how you did it, then this is your chance to make it even bigger or edit it, okay? I'm also going to come in with that darker red, and I'm just going to add a little bit more shadow down here, okay? So my trick for that shadow under the lip, again, like I mentioned before, we're going to be grabbing our round tip brush. So my tip is to get a little bit of water, and on the bottom line, let me zoom in. On the bottom line of the lip, you're going to come in and you're going to add some water to spread that out a little bit. See? And with that water, we're transitioning it. See how it's fading down there? It's becoming a glaze. So we're using the glaze to make it look like it's a gradient, like it's blending a little bit. Okay? So this is actually going to go a little bit thicker on the right-hand side. So it's going to be a little bit darker than it's looking. So there we go. We're starting to get, again, dark to light because I was able to use that glaze, which means a really watered down paint. So I came back in here, added a little bit water, and then that technically erases the line there. So when you come in and you do that smoothly and it all dries up, you can't even tell that there was a transition there. And that's what these glazes do. They're also a great way to erase. Say you painted something and you didn't like it and you want to erase it, you can go in there and just add more water to it and then come back with your towel and wipe it off and you'll get a clean transition there. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of that color, kind of bringing it down, adding a little bit more shadow there. I'm kind of bringing a little bit of the shadow underneath with that glaze. There you go. That way it looks like it's a little bit smoother and it's not so rough. There we go. Okay, so while the nose is drying up, we're going to come in with a little bit more white in that brown. And not in that brown, in that pink brown color. We're going to add a little bit more white to that. And we're going to come in and we're going to start to work on some highlights around the nose. So with our light pink, I'm starting to add a little bit of a highlight there. I'm working in a little bit of a, remember, it's not too white. So if it's too white, add a little bit more of that pink to it. We just want it to be a little bit lighter than the pink that's here. Okay, so we're coming in and we're creating this highlight around the nose with that lighter pink color. Again, we are using our round tip brush for this. There we go. And from here, we're just going to kind of play with it a little. Go in there, maybe add some highlights around certain sections just to make it stand out. Okay, we're going to just transition this. Okay. So we're adding a little bit of a highlight there. We could even add a little bit more of a yellow to that pink too, just to give it more of the yellow tone like the rest of the face. So we're adding some yellow to that darker pink and a little bit of more white. Okay, so we're making like a more yellowish version of the color that we're painting with. And again, we're just adding a little bit more to that highlight there. Okay. Okay, and right underneath the diamond of the nose, I think you guys should still be able to see that. Right underneath that diamond, let me get some more of this red in here. We're gonna make a little bit of a darker red. So we're grabbing your red, same thing, making it a little pink. You're gonna add more red to it this time, and we're gonna add a little bit more brown. So we're creating even a darker shadow now. If you notice, this looks like it's way more brown. Let's add a little bit more actually, and a little bit more red. There we go. And now we have an even darker shadow. So we're gonna go underneath, because this is where our nostril is right here. This is our other one. Okay, we're gonna go underneath and just create a little U. That's gonna give us a slight shadow on that section. We're also gonna create a little bit of a line right in the center going up. And we're gonna add a little bit of that shadow on this side of the nostril. Okay, if you wanna add a little bit of shadow anywhere else, feel free to do that. The next shadow we're going to be working on is going to be that same dark brown that we used. We are going to be lining the V underneath our eyes. There's one. Let me outline the eye for you so you guys can see it better. So this is my eye right in the middle, okay? And I'm going to start to work on shadowing this section. So I'm applying the color, right, nice and thick. And then I'm using the same glaze method that we did down here. I'm going to use it underneath these eyes. So I'm grabbing just a little bit of water. I'm not grabbing any more paint, just a little bit of water. And I'm starting to brush some of this darker red out towards the sides here to create a shadow. See that, how we're starting to get a little bit more of a shadow there? And these are going to be kind of like the little bags on the eyelid around the eyes. Okay, so if you want to come back and add a little more, that's fine. And then just kind of move it with the glaze slightly to just create some texture going around the eye. See? If it gets to be a little too dark, come back with a little bit of white and just kind of make a line underneath the eyelid and kind of work that in the opposite direction. See that? Now we added a little bit of highlight there. And we're going to do the same thing over the top, going in with that highlight. Then I'm coming in with my water and I'm starting to kind of scratch this so I can start using that to create a shadow here. So I'm coming in, scratching the bottom with a little bit of water. And I'm spreading that around. There we go. If you want to go in again and add a little bit of white to just kind of work with that color, you can go ahead and do that. I added a little bit of highlight right in the middle. And that way it looks like the eye's a little bit more outlined with that white there. In fact, I'm going to go in with my little brush, my detail brush, and just add a little bit more white there. I'm going to do the same thing up on the top. Just a little bit of white. There we go. And a little bit of white to the end of the nose as well. Since I'm playing with my white, I might as well, right? Adding a little bit there. Okay. So I'm going to let you guys catch up a little bit. I'm going to give you guys some time. Okay. So now that we're moving on, we're going to pick up our square brush. And we're going to be using a deeper red and a lighter red. So let's come in first, and not red. It's going to be more of like an also deeper pink. So we're messing with nothing but pinks today. So you see this? This is getting a little bit deeper. Okay, so to this color, we're going to come in and add a little bit more white. And we're going to add, don't forget to add a little bit of yellow. That's what makes it look a little bit more natural, and it doesn't look like a fake color. It looks more realistic. There you go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin to paint in the lines. You see that? There's one line. Here's another line. And we're going to get a little bit more water, and we're going to actually scrape this outwards lightly. Okay, so we're trying to create kind of a shadowy look there. We're going to do the same thing in the middle. And the same thing on this bottom section. We're making a line going down, and then we're just kind of scraping it on a little bit thicker this way. So we're going left and up, and we're just scratching, allowing our brush to create that little look there. We're just flicking it. There we go. Okay. Now what we're going to want to do is kind of work with this a little bit fast, just so that it doesn't dry on us. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly outline the outside. I like to do this to ensure that I'm not going to be going over the paint as much. So what we're going to do now is we're making a lighter version of this pink. So we're adding more white to the same pink that we used. And we're adding some more yellow to it. Okay, so we're going a little bit lighter. Not too much lighter, so we do want to get some of that rose in there. Cool. So we went a little bit lighter. And we're going to start to color the rest of our ear. So the reason that we don't want this to be completely dry when we're working with it is so that when we go into our darker pinks, it blends in. You see that? You see how it blended in properly there? It didn't look like it was dry paint on top of dry paint. Instead, we're getting that mixture right there. I'm going to zoom into the ear so you guys can see that a little better. There you go. So we're going in with a little bit more white. Okay. And we're going in with that lighter pink in there. Awesome. So once you paint the sides, if you want to add a little bit more white to that, you can pick up just your white. And wherever you see a curve, like up here, like down here and down here, you're going to want to add maybe just a little bit more white to that. Why? Because that's probably where the light is hitting it the most. Every time you see a little curve. There we go. And then here as well. Okay. Okay, and we're going to start to brush it in now. Hopefully your red hasn't completely dried up there. And if it does, then we're going to have to go over it one more time. So again, it was a little bit darker than before. Going bright red. There we go. Okay. And if you need to have it wet again, then just paint over it one more time. And that way we can get that smooth transition we're looking for when you apply your lighter pink over it. See how it blends a little better when your paint is still nice and wet. So again, we're grabbing some of that light pink and we're going to continue to work it into these reds that we drew in here, our shadows. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit lighter and closer to this color as we get closer to these sections right here. So this is where we're going to have to start kind of making this color that we made before. So again, that was pink with a little bit of yellow and more white. So our original color, which was pink, again, very light pink with some yellow. There we go. And we need to start kind of creating that color that we see in here. And we're going to start to work it into that pink section. Just to have it a little darker. Right here, so just have it a little bit darker. We're going to go over with some more of that red. And we are going to be working a little bit of that dark red in here so it just doesn't look like a big difference. We want it to look like a full complete painting. We don't want it to look like it's divided into sections. Okay. So I'm coming back with that yellow and that white, trying to match this color. There we go. Okay, we don't want it to be too white. There we go. We got some of that ear in there, so I'm coming back with that dark color that we used originally. And I'm starting to form that center space in there. So moving on, we are going to be grabbing our detail brush, which is our finest one. Okay, and we're going to be painting in all of our blacks now. So we're going to come in and we're going to start off first with our eye. Why? Because we want it to get dry a little bit faster so that we can put the highlight in there. So we're going to start with this and then move on to the rest and hope that hopefully it is dry by the time we put on the light, the light color on it. If not, we'll dry it up and then put that on top. So we're going to be grabbing a little bit of water, mixing it with our black. Make sure that it's nice and mixable. It's a little too sticky. So make sure you have it nice and soft like ink, okay? So make sure you have enough water in there that you can control it. Don't make it runny because then it's going to go everywhere and you don't want that. You want to be able to pick it up nice and smooth. So let me zoom in a little bit more. Here we go. So we're going to start off with our eye. We're going to be curving upwards for this eye, okay? And we're going to come into a point. Notice that it is angled upwards a little bit, so it's kind of a sad eye, okay? It's going down towards the left corner, okay? Then underneath, we're going to kind of drip it a little bit. And as we go up, we're going to kind of create a little curve upwards. And then we're going to have our eye right there. So we're coming in with our black. And we're going to begin to fill that in. Okay, if you want to make it a little bit taller up on top, you can. If you want to make it a little bit more dipped in, also. Cool. So then from there, we're going to move on. And we're going to be making our little diamond shapes right here on the nostrils. So we're making the nostrils on the snout. This one again is like a little diamond. And the other one is more of like a little teardrop on the right hand side. It curves instead of going to a point. And we're going to go in and fill that in as well. Next, we're going to get a little bit of that black, and we're just going to slightly outline the left side of the snout. Okay, and this is why you want your paint to be nice and soft so that you're not pressing very hard. The harder you press, the wider and less control you're going to have with your brush strokes. You're going to get them a little bit bigger the more you press. There we go. Cool. So then we have our mouth right here. And we're going to begin to paint that in as well. So we're painting it in our little mouth here. And as we go off to the side of the mouth, okay, don't paint that yet. As we go to the side of the mouth, we're actually going to add a little bit of white to our black to make it a dark gray. Okay, so we're actually having a gray, and that's what we're going to be doing on the side here. So we're going to do our little circle. See that? Almost like a little drop. Coming back with a little bit more white. And we're going to fill that in. And then we're going to continue that. You see that? And we're getting that black kind of transitioning into a dark gray. I'm also coming in and brushing some of my black into that. Okay. So that light gray, you're going to keep using it right now. We're going to add a little bit of water to it. Okay, make it nice and soft. And we're going to apply this as a glaze also. So glaze means really watery color. Okay, so I'm making a watery transition there. You see that? So then to this, we're going to add a little bit of texture below the lower lip. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So here's a lower lip. I'm grabbing some of my brown and I'm just kind of creating some dots there. And that's going to be the little piggy's lower lip. He's got a gray lower lip. It's going to get a little bit wider towards the edge here. And we're just going to dab that lightly over the top. Now that we've done that and we have that gray at hand, we're going to use that gray to do very light outlines around the face here. So we are coming in with our ear, curving it in slightly, and we're just going to be doing a very light broken line all the way down the neck. See? And we're going to do the same thing with that. If it's a little too dark, add a little bit more white to it. There you go. Make it a little bit lighter. Okay, made it a little bit lighter. Next, we're going to go off to the side and we're going to do the same thing over here. There we go. We're going to do the same thing down the side of the ear, except that it is a little bit darker down the side of the ear. We're going to be mixing a little bit of brown into this mixture now, into our gray mixture. So we have like a brown gray. And that's the brown gray that we're going to be using for the sides of the ear and a little bit on top of the head. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around slightly. Okay, there you go. Cool. So then we're going to come in with that light gray and we're going to begin to outline the sides of the ear. And remember, we did add a little bit of brown to it. And you don't have to be too rough with these outlines either. You can kind of go a little bit thinner. You can make them separated like we did around the neck. There we go, you see that? So we're starting to get a little bit of an outline around there now. Okay. We're just gonna go really lightly over the top of the head. Super cute. Okay. So from there, we are gonna go back to our deep red real quick. I'm grabbing some red and some brown again. Okay, and to that, I'm gonna mix it into my white. So red and brown, mixed in with my white, that really deep color. We're trying to get it a little deeper. The same shadow color we use down here. Okay, again, the brown is really gonna help us out with that. There we go, we got our shadowy color right there. Perfect. So again, with this brown, we are just gonna come in and add some shadow underneath the nostril there. We're gonna come in and kind of create a V above that, kind of like we have under the eyelid there. You can even come and make your eyelid just a little thicker if you want even. There we go, just a little thicker. Okay, So we're grabbing that dark pink again, and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. We're going over it just a little bit more, trying to make sure that all these shadows stand out. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of shadow underneath. I'm coming in with a little bit more brown, and I'm lining the center of the nostril going up with that. Okay. There we go with the nose. And finally, when we are done with this, we're going to pick up our white again. And we're going to add some highlights, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. There we go. So we're picking up our white, and we're going to add a little bit of a highlight in the nostril. So I'm adding a little bit of a corner there. Let me zoom in. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit of a space, adding that corner. And then down here, I'm making it a little bit thicker so that we can see kind of the inside of the nostril there. And then we're just bringing up a little line up. Right here on this side, we're going to do sort of the same thing. Adding a little bit of a line there. We're bringing it down. Okay. Right, and next, we're going to go back in with that same white. Make sure that your brush is nice and washed. Or you might turn your paint a little bit pink. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of a line underneath the eyelid again. So make sure that you don't pick up too much water, or your white is going to go everywhere. I created an eyelid underneath the eye there. And I just added a little bit of highlights underneath it to give it more dimension. Same thing on top. Added a couple of lines there. I'm adding a single line over the eye itself. Okay. Right in the corner, picking up a little bit of that pink and more white. And we're actually going to add a little bit of a water line right here. So we're adding kind of that where your tear duct is on the corner of your eye. And then right on top, we're just going to add a white circle. A lot of people don't see this in this picture, but what makes that white circle pop is the gray that is next to it. So you're getting a little bit of a darker gray. Okay. And you're going to be adding a little bit of a water line underneath. And then right here on the right, we're going to be adding some highlight. See that? And that's what's going to lead to the eye that's above it. That's what's going to make it look a little bit more realistic. There we go. Now we zoom out, and there you go. You have yourself a cute little piggy picture. So the only thing that is left to do is to just come in. And this time I'm going to do my signature on my right side. Usually I do it on my left, but I don't really want to paint on my piglet. So I'm going to make it on my left. I'm sorry. I usually make it on my right. I'm going to make it on my left. So coming in. And there you go.